The galaxy had many rules, but only one was whispered in hushed, reverent tones by every advanced civilization: don't wake the humans. No one could say for certain where this edict originated. Some claimed it was carved into ancient star charts. Others insisted it was the final command left behind by a long-forgotten empire. And yet, for all its mystery, the directive stood firm. Whether you were a scholarly Zelian, a fierce Crithian, or even one of the elusive Vikral, you did not rouse the slumbering human race. For centuries, the Zelians had led the galaxy in scientific pursuits, quantum engineering, and diplomatic outreach. Under their careful stewardship, alliances formed, trade flourished, and knowledge expanded. Yet, even they bowed to the cryptic wisdom of the universal rule. Chief Science Officer Zyth was the most respected mind on Zelia Prime. His tall, slender frame, for shimmering eyes, and composed demeanor had guided many breakthroughs. He had personally led expeditions to the edges of the galaxy, collecting data on extinct species, black hole phenomena, and cosmic strings that danced in the far reaches of space. Standing at his side was his junior researcher, Nivla, a brilliant but impulsive Zelian who had a knack for asking uncomfortable questions. Nivla believed that old rules should be tested, especially the big one about the humans. "Chief, we've located another human colony ship," Nivla announced one day, bursting into Zyth's lab. "It's drifting near the frontier, silent but fully intact." Zyth's mandibles tightened. "And you want to investigate?" he said, already knowing the answer. "Yes," Nivla replied, eyes shining with excitement. "Don't you wonder why they're so dangerous? They've been asleep for millennia, right? We're advanced now. Maybe it's time we find out what makes them so fearsome." A flicker of hesitation crossed Zyth's face. The rule was not something one broke lightly. But his own curiosity, honed by years of research, flared to life. "If we do this," he said slowly, "we do it under the strictest protocols. No direct interference. We observe. We record. That's all." Nivla nodded, a confident grin forming on her lips. She had no idea how drastically the galaxy was about to change, or how quickly a well-intentioned probe could lead to interstellar pandemonium. The human colony ship orbited a dim star in the far reaches of Zelian-charted space. It was massive, easily twice the size of any standard Zelian vessel, with a hull pockmarked by asteroid impacts and cosmic debris. Its origins were ancient, older than most records in the galactic archives. Nivla's research pod docked carefully with the silent craft. The Zelian's hearts pounded as she activated her scanners. Life signs. Millions of them, faint but stable, deep in cryosleep. The data scrolled across her screen in mesmerizing patterns. "This is incredible," she whispered, her voice echoing in the cramped confines of the pod. "Chief, do you see these readings?" Zyth's voice crackled over the comm. "I do. Maintain minimal power usage. We don't want to wake." Before he could finish, the lights on the colony ship flickered to life. A hum, ancient and eerie, coursed through the hull. "What's happening?" Nivla asked, panic creeping into her tone. "You tell me." Zyth barked. "Get out of there, now." Nivla tried to disengage, but the docking clamps refused to release. An automated system on the human ship took over, scanning the small Zelian pod. Then, with a resounding clunk, the ancient craft's interior repressurized, as if greeting an old friend. "I can't move," Nivla said, voice trembling. "It's got me locked in." Zyth muttered a curse under his breath. "We'll dispatch a rescue team." "Don't do anything." But it was too late. The colony ship's revival protocol surged through every deck, overriding centuries of dormancy. Cryo chambers hissed and opened in rows. Pale lights revealed row after row of humans, each sealed behind a transparent tube. And, one by one, they began to stir. On the bridge of the Zelian science vessel Star's beacon, Zyth watched in horror as data poured in. Human vital signs spiked across the board. "They're waking up," he said, his tone hollow. "All of them." The universal rule, "Don't wake the humans," rang in his ears. He'd never questioned its validity. Now, it seemed, he would see its consequences firsthand. Meanwhile, aboard the colony ship, Nifla crouched behind a console. She watched through a porthole as the first humans emerged from their cryo chambers, coughing and blinking in confusion. They looked normal. Bipedal. Slightly taller than Zelians, with hair in varying shades. But then they began to speak, and their voices carried an unsettling confidence. "Why are the lights on?" one man grumbled, rubbing his eyes. "I swear, if this is another systems glitch, I'm calling the repair crew." "Wait," a woman said, glancing around. "We were supposed to be asleep for how long?" "Another 100 years, at least," someone else replied, stifling a yawn. Nifla's translator struggled to keep up with their rapid-fire chatter. She blinked in astonishment. Humans weren't panicking or attacking. They seemed annoyed. Like travelers rudely awakened from a pleasant nap. Suddenly, an alarm blared. "Intruder alert." Nifla realized with dread that she was the intruder. Her presence had triggered the ship's revival sequence. With a hiss, a nearby door slid open. A group of humans in rumpled jumpsuits stared at her. One stepped forward, eyes narrowing. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and sporting a beard that looked hastily trimmed even after centuries in stasis. "Who are you?" he demanded. I'm Nifla," she managed, fumbling with her translator device. "Zelian scientist. I didn't mean to wake you." He raised an eyebrow. "Well, you did wake us." "That's rude." Nifla's hearts hammered. I'm sorry?" Another human stepped forward, crossing her arms. "We had a perfect dream state going on, you know. Our entire civilization was in a carefully monitored cryo simulation, exploring the universe through advanced neural links. Now, we're awake, which means we have to actually deal with real life." She spoke with the exasperation of someone whose afternoon nap had been cut short, not a being that had just slept for centuries. Nifla tried to process this. These humans weren't mindless brutes. They were advanced and apparently very cranky. Within an hour, chaos gripped the region of space around the human colony ship. Zelians, alarmed by the unexpected awakening, scrambled to form a response. Zeros dispatched. Diplomatic envoys, scientists, and translators. Messages flooded the comm channels with pleas for calm. But the humans were not in a calm mood. They were in a complaining mood. "We want coffee," demanded a particularly outspoken human named Mara. She was short, fiery-eyed, and absolutely unwavering in her stance. "I don't care what century this is. I need a double espresso." "Coffee," repeated a bewildered Zelian ambassador. "We don't have that. Our records show it was an Earth beverage, possibly extinct." Mara glowered. "Then UN extinct it." Next to her, another human chimed in. "While you're at it, I want a Netflix subscription. Gotta catch up on what we missed." "Netflix?" The ambassador looked at Zeros in confusion. "It's an ancient Earth entertainment service," Zeros explained quietly, remembering a single historical note in the archives. "Streaming shows, apparently." The humans nodded vigorously. "Yes. Shows, movies, distractions. We've been asleep a long time, so we need to ease into real life." To the Zelians, the demand seemed utterly bizarre. But the humans were relentless. They wanted coffee, streaming services, and, most baffling of all, reparations for being woken up prematurely. "This is an outrage," hissed a Crithian diplomat over a separate channel, scowling. "They just woke up and already they want compensation? For sleep?" The universal rule had been broken, and now the entire galaxy was bracing for the rumored wrath of humanity. But so far, the wrath looked more like a grumpy morning routine than an invasion. The Galactic Forum convened on Zelia Prime. Delegates from dozens of species packed the Grand Council Hall. Holographic translators glowed, ensuring that every hiss, chirp, or hum could be understood. On one side of the circular chamber stood the humans, still clad in mismatched jumpsuits, some sporting improvised "I need coffee" badges. They looked half awake, yet oddly determined. On the other side, an assortment of aliens shifted uncomfortably, exchanging nervous glances. Chief among the aliens was Zeros, who struggled to maintain decorum. He cleared his throat, activating the central microphone. Esteemed representatives, we gather to address the sudden reawakening of humanity and their demands. Demands? Mara cut in, her voice dripping with sarcasm. We're simply asking for basic rights, coffee, entertainment, and an apology for interrupting our cryo simulation. You try sleeping for centuries and then getting rudely woken up. See how you feel. A Zelian council member bristled. It was an accident. We didn't mean to. But you did, didn't you? Another human interrupted. And now we're up. So let's negotiate. The tension in the hall was palpable. The Crithian emissary, a tall figure with chitinous plating, glared at the humans. We have a proud tradition of discipline. If your people are truly as advanced as rumored, you wouldn't be whining about coffee. Oh, we're advanced, Mara shot back, eyes flashing. We've spent centuries in a shared neural network, exploring theoretical physics, mapping cosmic phenomena, running simulations of every known civilization, including yours. She paused for effect. But just because we're advanced doesn't mean we don't like a good latte. A murmur spread through the alien delegates. The humans' calm mention of simulations suggested they might know more about galactic affairs than anyone realized. Could they truly have studied them while asleep? Zero stepped forward, hands raised for silence. Please, let's approach this rationally. Humans, if we can't provide coffee immediately, can we offer you something else? A local beverage, perhaps? The humans exchanged glances. Finally, Mara shrugged. Fine. But it better be strong. It turned out the Zelians had something like coffee, an herbal brew called Zeraxa, known for its potent stimulating effects. They served it in the council chambers, distributing steaming mugs to the bleary-eyed humans. The humans took one sip, and chaos erupted. This is incredible, Mara gasped, eyes wide. It's stronger than espresso. Around her, other humans who had tried the Zeraxa began speaking rapidly, pacing in circles, or tapping their feet at record speeds. It was as though they discovered an even more powerful caffeine source than Earth had ever produced. This might be the greatest beverage in the universe, one human declared, a manic grin stretching across his face. I can see sounds. The Crithian emissary scowled. They are acting like children on a sugar rush. But the humans were beyond caring. The brew, ironically, had the opposite effect of calming them. Within minutes, a group of newly awakened humans had set up an impromptu coffee bar in the council lobby, distributing cups to curious alien diplomats. Soon, half the assembly was jittery, wide-eyed, and discussing everything from quantum entanglement to the best comedic shows of Earth's lost centuries. Zeros watched, equal parts fascinated and horrified. I didn't foresee this outcome, he muttered. A soft laugh from behind startled him. He turned to see Carson Jett, a human who had quietly observed the negotiations from the side. Carson was tall, lean, and had an unassuming air of calm that contrasted sharply with the caffeine frenzy. We appreciate the hospitality, he said, nodding at Zeros. But I think we need to talk about something more important than coffee. Zeros blinked. More important? From what I've seen, your people are quite fixated on it. Carson's lips quirked in a half-smile. We love our comforts, sure. But we also know we've just changed the entire galactic dynamic by waking up. There's a lot of fear about us out there, stories that humans are dangerous, unpredictable. I'd like to help ease those fears. It was a surprisingly diplomatic statement, and it gave Zeros a glimmer of hope. That would be welcome, he replied softly. Carson's gaze swept over the frenzied council hall. Then let's show them we can do more than shout for coffee. We can unite people, too, maybe over something as simple as a game night. A week later, the Universal Community Center on Zelia Prime hosted its first ever Galactic game night. The idea came from the humans, an evening of casual socializing, complete with board games and friendly competitions. It was a radical departure from the typical diplomatic summits filled with formal speeches and stiff protocol. Rows of tables filled the enormous hall, each set up with a different human board game. There was Monopoly, which perplexed the aliens with its endless cycle of property acquisition. Risk, which caused uneasy laughter when the aliens realized it was a game of world conquest. And something called Twister, which baffled everyone, humans included. At first, only a handful of delegates showed up, mostly curious scientists, like Nivler, or the braver ambassadors. But word spread fast. Within an hour, the hall was buzzing. Zelians, Crithians, V-Kral, and more species mingled awkwardly, drawn by the novelty. Mara, who had calmed down considerably since her Zaraxa binge, explained the rules of Monopoly to a group of wide-eyed Crithians. You move around the board, buy properties, and charge rent. It's a simulation of capitalism. A Crithian delegate snorted. So it's a game of greed? Pretty much, Mara agreed with a shrug. But weirdly fun. Just don't take it too seriously. Meanwhile, Carson oversaw a table where Zelians attempted Risk. Wait, one Zelian asked, frowning at the tiny plastic soldiers. We're supposed to conquer each other's territories? That seems counterproductive to diplomacy. Carson grinned. Exactly. It's a game. We do it here so we don't do it in real life. Slowly, the tension in the hall melted. Laughter erupted at each table as delegates tried, and often failed, to grasp the nuances of human games. The sense of camaraderie was palpable. Even the stoic Crithians found themselves smiling as they collected Monopoly money or valiantly tried to contort themselves on Twister's colored circles. By the end of the night, Zeros was speechless. He had never seen such a diverse gathering come together with so little friction. The humans, once rumored to be unstoppable warriors, had instead proven themselves to be unstoppable hosts. Flush with the success of Game Night, the humans introduced another concept that rocked galactic society: Casual Fridays. The idea was simple: once a week, formal attire was optional, and delegates were encouraged to wear comfortable clothing if their species wore clothes at all. The proposition was met with confusion and, in some cases, outrage. The Crithian emissary nearly stormed out of the forum, calling it an insult to centuries of tradition. Yet, curiosity got the better of many. On the first official Casual Friday, the grand halls of Zelia Prime saw a parade of bizarre outfits. A few adventurous Praxians donned bright, neon-hued robes. Zelians showed up in loosely draped garments that allowed their skin to breathe. Even the V-Kral, shimmering with their natural bioluminescence, added colorful patches to their usual cloaks. Humans, of course, sported t-shirts with slogans like "Nap time is the best time" and "My other ship is a Dodge." They wore sneakers, jeans, and hats that made no sense to alien eyes. And they loved every second of it. Nivler, initially skeptical, found herself enjoying the relaxed atmosphere. She chatted with humans about their culture, gleaning insights that contradicted every rumor she'd heard. Instead of ferocious conquerors, she saw a people who valued comfort, entertainment, and genuine connection. Still, not everyone was on board. The Crithian emissary stood in a corner, scowling at the spectacle. "This is madness," he muttered, adjusting his stiff ceremonial armor. "We are turning diplomacy into a circus." Carson, passing by, offered a friendly wave. "If you want to join, there's a booth handing out free t-shirts with your name on them." The emissary's scowl deepened, but for just a moment, his eyes flicked toward the table stacked with bright, silly shirts. Then he huffed and turned away, as though resisting a temptation that threatened to unravel centuries of decorum. Despite the growing sense of unity, not everything was peaceful. As more humans awakened from cryo, new demands surfaced, some comedic, others unsettling. One group insisted on establishing a universal coffee authority, claiming that every corner of the galaxy should have access to premium beans. Another faction wanted to distribute cookies as a mandatory snack at every official meeting, going so far as to threaten a cookie embargo if their demands weren't met. Alien delegates struggled to keep pace with these bizarre negotiations. The humans, it seemed, had a knack for turning mundane comforts into cosmic-level priorities. Yet, beneath the surface, the galaxy's long-standing tensions lurked. Crithians complained that the humans' focus on leisure undermined serious diplomatic efforts. The Belruni, a race known for their obsession with protocol, balked at the idea of cookies and coffee overshadowing centuries-old traditions. Even the Zelians worried that they might be losing control of the orderly system they had built. One evening, Zeros called a private meeting with Carson, Mara, and a few other prominent humans. They gathered in a quiet lounge in the Universal Community Center, the walls adorned with swirling star maps. Zero sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'll be frank, while I appreciate the unity your culture is fostering, the galaxy wasn't prepared for so many changes, so quickly." Carson nodded. "We understand. It's not our intention to disrupt everything." Mara sipped her Zaraxa brew. "We just have a certain way of doing things. Humans like to relax, connect, and share experiences. We've been gone a long time. Maybe the galaxy could use a shake-up?" Zeros pursed his lips, contemplating her words. "Perhaps. But we need a balanced approach. Right now, some species feel overwhelmed. The Crithians, especially, are resistant." Mara shrugged. "They'll come around. Or we'll bribe them with cookies." Carson shot her a warning glance, then turned back to Zeros. "Let's propose a formal resolution. A new framework for intergalactic cooperation, one that includes relaxation and community building. But we'll respect each civilization's boundaries." A spark of hope flickered in Zeros' eyes. "I'd like that. I truly believe we can find a middle ground." In that moment, it became clear the humans were not just comedic disruptors. They were also potential architects of a new, more open galactic society, provided they could keep their coffee and cookies from driving everyone insane. The proposed framework took shape over weeks of negotiations. Dubbed the Galactic Leisure Accord, it laid out guidelines for balancing formal diplomacy with cultural exchange. Each species would maintain its core traditions, but also participate in at least one community-building event per month, be it a game night, a casual gathering, or a coffee tasting. Debates raged in the council chambers. Some delegates decried the idea as frivolous. Others championed it as a necessary evolution. The humans, surprisingly adept at persuasion, highlighted how relaxation and camaraderie could prevent conflicts. "Think of it as a safety valve," Carson argued to a room of skeptical ambassadors. "When tensions rise, we diffuse them with shared experiences. It's not about ignoring serious issues, it's about ensuring we can address them without always resorting to hostility." The turning point came when a Belruni delegate admitted, with great reluctance, that her people had actually found a new sense of unity after adopting casual Fridays. Productivity in Belruni industries had risen by 15%, simply because workers felt less stressed. When the final vote was cast, the Galactic Leisure Accord passed by a slim margin. And so, the galaxy embarked on an unprecedented experiment, forging peace through fun. Just when it seemed the galaxy might settle into this new paradigm, a cryptic message arrived from the Vikral, a species so reclusive that many doubted their existence. A single word flashed on every major comm station: help. The Vikral inhabited a remote planet, rumored to be rich in uncharted resources. Their technology was advanced yet hidden, their culture guarded. Few had interacted with them, and none had established meaningful relations. An emergency session of the Galactic Forum convened. Delegates argued about the authenticity of the message. Some suspected a trap. Others insisted they had to respond. Ultimately, a coalition formed, led, unsurprisingly, by the humans and the Zelians. "We can't ignore a call for help," Carson said firmly. "If the V'Krall need assistance, we're going." Krithian emissary Drax scoffed. "Humans, always rushing into the unknown. This might be a ruse." Mara folded her arms. "If it's a ruse, we'll deal with it. If it's genuine, then ignoring it would be unforgivable." Thus, a small fleet set out for V'Krall space, including Zelian scientists, Krithian security forces, and a handful of humans who insisted on bringing crates of coffee just in case. The V'Krall homeworld was breathtaking, a swirling mix of purple oceans and silver continents, with an atmosphere tinted pale green. The fleet landed cautiously on a vast plateau near what appeared to be a city of organic spires. The architecture pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, creating a living tapestry of light. No one greeted them at first. The landing party fanned out, scanning for life signs. At last, a shimmering figure emerged, a V'Krall female named Zoril. Her body glowed softly, her features graceful yet alien. "You came," she said, voice resonating like distant chimes. Carson stepped forward. "We received your distress call. How can we help?" Zoril's gaze flicked over the group. "Our world suffers from an imbalance. Our energy harvesters malfunctioned, causing seismic disruptions. Our people are afraid. We heard rumors of your skill in uniting others, and we hoped you might unite us with the galaxy." The group exchanged glances. It wasn't a trap, it was a plea. And so, the humans and their allies began working alongside the V'Krall, examining the malfunctioning technology. Krithian engineers grudgingly admitted that the human centuries of theoretical research gave them unique insights. Zelian scientists offered quantum solutions. Even the concept of taking a break occasionally helped, preventing exhausted minds from making careless errors. Slowly, day by day, the crisis on the V'Krall homeworld eased. In return, the V'Krall shared their secrets of harnessing bioluminescent energy. A new bond formed, one built on curiosity, mutual aid, and the occasional coffee-fueled brainstorming session. Word spread of the human success on V'Krall. Skeptics began to wonder if the universal rule had been a misguided attempt to suppress humanity's potential. Maybe the fear wasn't that humans would destroy the galaxy, but that they would change it beyond recognition. The Krithians, still clinging to vestiges of doubt, proposed a final test, the Grand Puzzle of Kryth, a legendary challenge meant to test a civilization's worthiness to influence galactic affairs. No one outside Krithian culture had ever solved it. Carson and Mara accepted, joined by Nivla and Zeros. They arrived at the Krithian capital, a sprawling metropolis of dark spires and neon-lit streets. In the central hall stood an imposing, many-layered puzzle machine with shifting geometric panels. Emissary Drax smirked. "If you humans are truly so advanced, solve this puzzle. Show us you deserve your newfound influence." Carson studied the puzzle, a jumble of interlocking shapes and cryptic symbols. "Looks complicated," he murmured. Mara cracked her knuckles. "We love complicated. Let's do this." They worked for hours, analyzing the puzzle's mechanical and symbolic elements. At times, they argued, Mara favored intuitive leaps, Carson insisted on systematic logic, Zeros tried to apply Zelian quantum reasoning, and Nivla simply poked at panels to see what happened. Drax watched, arms folded, certain of their eventual failure. But the humans, resourceful and used to problem solving, thanks to centuries of simulated scenarios, uncovered the puzzle's hidden layers. They found that some pieces were illusions, others demanded collaboration. Eventually, they aligned the final panels with a loud click. A hush fell over the hall. The puzzle glowed, revealing an ancient Krithian inscription. He who seeks control will never find harmony. He who seeks harmony needs no control. Drax's scowl softened. The humans had done the impossible. The puzzle's meaning was clear: true unity can't be forced, it must be nurtured. And the humans, with their strange blend of leisure and drive, embodied that ethos perfectly. Back on Zelia Prime, the Galactic Leisure Accord flourished. Once hostile species formed alliances over board games and coffee breaks. Diplomatic sessions started with casual introductions, not formal announcements. Productivity rose across multiple worlds, driven by the improved morale that came from balancing work and play. Even the Crithians introduced a monthly relaxation festival, a shocking development that involved unarmored social gatherings and comedic performances. The Belruni revised their strict protocols to include optional coffee hours. The V-Kral, now connected to the broader galactic community, offered their bioluminescent energy solutions, reducing power disputes. The humans, for their part, didn't claim dominance. They simply found their place in the swirling tapestry of civilizations, sharing ideas and learning from others. They also napped a lot. Whenever life got too stressful, they reminded the galaxy that rest was essential. At one especially raucous council meeting, Mara stood up and made an announcement: "We are starting a universal community center extension on Earth, once we fix it up. It'll be a place for everyone to visit. A cosmic coffee shop, a hub for cultural festivals, and maybe a place to watch old Earth movies. All are welcome." No one laughed or scoffed. The galaxy had come to trust these once feared humans, who had turned out to be the missing puzzle piece for a more harmonious existence. And then, in the midst of this new era, the humans made a startling declaration. Carson stood before the Grand Assembly on Zelia Prime, his voice carrying a hint of sadness. "We've accomplished much together. We've reintroduced ourselves to the galaxy, forged bonds, and maybe taught everyone the value of relaxation. But our own simulations, our cryosleep, they're part of who we are." A murmur spread through the crowd. The humans explained that, having established a foundation for interstellar cooperation, they planned to re-enter a form of cryosleep, not for centuries this time, but for shorter intervals, to continue their neural explorations. They wanted to keep pushing the boundaries of science, art, and philosophy in their unique dreamscapes. The announcement sparked both concern and admiration. Many species had grown fond of the humans' presence, their humor, and their coffee obsession. Still, they respected the choice. Zero stepped forward, addressing the assembly. "If the humans choose to rest, let it be known that the galaxy stands ready to welcome them again, whenever they awaken." Mara offered a wry grin. "Just don't wake us up early for something trivial, okay? If you do, we'll demand triple the coffee." Laughter rippled through the hall. The universal rule had, in a sense, come full circle. It wasn't "don't wake the humans out of fear anymore." It was "let the humans nap when they need to, out of respect." The day the humans returned to cryosleep, representatives from dozens of species gathered to bid them farewell. They watched as the massive human ships, once dormant and now refitted with new technology, quietly drifted away from Zelia Prime. For a moment, the galaxy felt a pang of loss, an echo of the centuries when humans had been absent. But this time, it was different. The humans had left behind more than rumors or warnings. They had left behind a new culture of balance, a galaxy that knew the power of cooperation, the joy of a well-timed coffee break, and the simple magic of a board game. In time, other species would develop their own variations of casual days, game nights, and cultural festivals. War still threatened in some corners, and not every dispute could be solved by laughter. But the seeds of harmony had been planted, nurtured by the very beings once considered the greatest threat. On distant worlds, starships carried the message of unity further than ever before. And in the quiet corners of space, travelers would sometimes find themselves near the slumbering human ships. They'd pass by, remembering the universal rule that had once been absolute, and smile, knowing the humans slept not in oblivion, but in promise. For eventually, they would awaken again. And when they did, they would bring with them another wave of unexpected change, laughter, and cosmic coffee breaks. Because in this galaxy, one truth remained eternal. Sometimes, all it takes to reshape the stars is a good nap, a strong cup of coffee, and a willingness to play.